It's my goal and my role at Thinkful to speak to potential students about what their goals are, what projects they have in mind, or any interest they have in programming. And then from then we can figure out if one of the courses that we offer might be a good option for them. And today I'm going to be doing that by discussing the different programs that we have here on Thinkful. At Thinkful, both the individual course offerings and then focusing the majority of the presentation on the Web Development Bootcamp. I did want to point out that if you've been on Thinkful's site for the last couple of days or the last week or so, you may have noticed a change in the name of the program. And that's because what used to be known as the Web Development Career Path has evolved so much in the last 6 months that we can now call it what it really is, which is a bootcamp to launch your new career. And for that reason, you'll now see the Web Development Bootcamp. So if while I'm in the presentation, I just by habit happen to say career path, what I really mean is the Web Development Bootcamp. But yeah, so today I'll be walking through the student experience at Thinkful, talking about the curriculum, the career prep and job placement component of the bootcamp itself versus the individual courses. I'll also discuss the different financing options and payment plans that we have. And then at the end, I'll discuss the graduate outcomes, and we can answer any questions that you may have. So if as I'm moving through the presentation, anything comes up, type it into the chat box and we'll get to it at the end. All right, let's get started. So I wanted to first start out by discussing the individual course offerings that we have here. Presentation, anything comes up. These are the course offerings that you saw online that may include things like front-end development, Ruby on Rails, learning how to build an application for an iPhone or an Android device, or even things like data science. These courses are specific in that they're meant to teach you a skill. They're for someone who's an existing front-end developer, for example, and really wants to learn to work with Python or Node.js for backend. Or for someone who's been working in the UI UX space for a while and wants to learn some front-end development so they can collaborate with their colleagues. Or it could be for a student, to give you a third example, who is currently using something like Excel or something like R, and they want to learn to work with Python for data science. Alone, these courses are structured around one-on-one mentorship. They have a project-driven curriculum that adds up to a very student-created, entirely unique capstone project. And this capstone project is entirely student-owned, so if you'd like to bring in something from your professional work, you totally have the option of doing so. Several of the students that have gone through these programs have. I did want to note that alone, these courses aren't enough to really guarantee you a new job as a developer or as a data scientist. It really depends on what your background is and who you are as a student in terms of experience that you have. So if you're interested in discussing whether one of these courses is what you're looking for, please type it into the chat box, or we can get in touch and discuss that one-on-one. To give you a rough estimate or an overview of what these courses are structured like, each program is anywhere between 2 to 3 months and will cost about $300 to $500 per month to complete. Again, as I mentioned, these courses are to teach you a skill, not necessarily all that you need in order to transition onto a new role, unlike the bootcamp program that we have. The Web Development Bootcamp is structured to take you from a beginner to an employed developer. It's also focused around one-on-one mentorship, like everything that we do here at Thinkful. But it covers a full stack curriculum that includes front-end development, back-end development, and also the computer science concepts and developer tools that you'll need in order to succeed, not only in finding a job, but in being good at your job. Because the program itself is structured as a bootcamp, and the goal of the bootcamp is to help you transition into a new role, it does come with a very comprehensive career prep and job placement component that includes the guarantee on job placement that I can discuss towards the end of the presentation. Overall, the career path, or what is now the bootcamp, has had a track record of success. We've seen 93% of our students find roles as developers or engineers within the first 4 months of completing the program. And we really are working with students from all around the country. They have really different backgrounds, and though most of them are coming to Thinkful without really any experience or any level of professional experience with programming, some do. It just may be in different technologies. Regardless of what your background is and what your personal experience is with programming, we strongly believe that the path to your new career as a developer or engineer begins with the one-on-one mentorship that you receive that's focused around a very project-driven curriculum. And for that reason, everything that we do at Thinkful is focused on that one-on-one interaction that you have with your personal mentor. One-on-one mentorship has been proven many times to be the most effective way of learning. And at Thinkful, a personal mentorship experience means a curriculum and a course and a program that's tailored exactly around who you are as a student. Your mentor is going to be able to pick up on your individual learning style, which means they'll be able to identify components of the course that you may have some trouble with, or identify parts of the curriculum that you can move through more quickly because you've either worked with that kind of technology in the past, or it's just a natural inclination you have. It also means that you're going to have all the questions that you have answered by your mentor, and they're going to be passing on the extreme amount of knowledge that they have because of their senior engineer positions onto you. Again, because you're working with one mentor, it's extremely important that we're pairing you with a professional who's not only great at their craft, but also a good mentor. And at Thinkful, our mentors have an average of 10 years of experience working as professionals in the industry. And they come, just like our students, from really different backgrounds. Two of the mentors that you see on screen now are perfect examples of that. Shristi on the left side has been a software architect at companies like Accenture and Adobe for many years, and she's also an incomplete JavaScript master. She's worked with virtually every framework or library that there is to know about JavaScript. And more recently, she's focused her attention around creating a site that encourages women to join the industry as developers or engineers. JP on the right is coming from a background in design before he started working as an engineer. And more recently, he's worked for companies like Nike and HP, building award-winning sites for them. He also has a very strong background with different languages. So just to give you an overview of what the mentors look like, I wanted to highlight two of our great mentors, Shristi and JP. The truth is that the mentors go through a very rigorous hiring process. To give you an overview of how rigorous that hiring process is, over the last year, we've spoken to about 1,000 candidates who wish to become Thinkful mentors, but we've selected fewer than 20% of those. And it's such a rigorous application process for the mentors because we want to make sure that we're selecting someone who's not only a great engineer, but someone who's good at passing on that experience they have to their students. You can be great at your craft and be a professional engineer, but that doesn't necessarily translate into you being a good teacher. And so at Thinkful, because the mentorship experience is so important, we want to make sure that we're pairing you with someone who can truly help you succeed. And the way that they'll be doing that is by interacting with you every single week, regardless of which program you're enrolled in, the individual courses or the web development boot camps, through video chat with screen sharing. Now, there isn't necessarily a typical one-on-one session that you'll have with your personal mentor, but you are going to be spending a lot of time reviewing the progress that you've made in the program. You're also going to jump into evaluating the work that you've completed and discussing the best practices for a specific implementation. A lot of the work that you're going to be doing with your mentor is pair programming, building your personal portfolio that you're then going to present to your employers once you start submitting applications. The portfolio is really one of the most important components, and the mentor is there to make sure that you're learning the technical skills to build it, and that you're also integrating the course into your life so that you can succeed. As some of you may already know, one of the core challenges of being an adult student is that you have many responsibilities outside of the program. For some of you, that's work. For others, it's family or friends that keep you busy. And for most of us, it's actually a combination of both of those. So the mentor is there to make sure that you're making use of the resources that you have available to you, that you're not falling behind on projects, and that if you are struggling for help, you ask for it. That the mentor knows the resources that you can reach out to, and they know how to tailor your experience to make sure that you succeed. When I work with my personal mentor at Thinkful, in the Python course that I'm enrolled in, he makes sure that I stay on top of the material. He'll send me some messages on Slack, or he'll send me an email on days that I don't expect it, asking if I've made any progress. He knows when I haven't submitted things onto GitHub or pushed anything onto GitHub, and it really makes me stay on top of things. So it's an interaction that you can expect to have in your mentor because they really are going to become the best friend that you have in development. And again, they're going to be there to make sure that you're building technical skills. And at Thinkful, that means building JavaScript skills, becoming a true JavaScript master. The web development bootcamp curriculum is entirely focused around JavaScript and its different frameworks, and we have that focus for a number of reasons. Number one, that it's the most widely used language in web development, and it's also really highly versatile, meaning that you can build full stack applications using just JavaScript and its different frameworks. It's also constantly evolving, and a perfect example of that I can give you is that in April of this year, we integrated working with React into the curriculum. Before that, we had a focus around AngularJS, but as we started seeing a rise in the demand for React in the industry, we wanted to change the curriculum and update it so that you were working with something that would prepare you for the types of jobs that you're going to see once you start applying. We have a number of different mentors that work for Thinkful that have additional responsibilities than just mentoring. These would be the course leads that are in charge of each component of the curriculum that the course lead for. So if the React curriculum is something that's not comprehensive enough because a student voiced a concern or because we've seen a couple of projects not go well, we pay very close attention to that, and the mentors and our head of curriculum, Ben White, will get together, work through those issues, and update the curriculum as often as we need it. Really, we're receiving lots of feedback from all the mentors that work for Thinkful, and so you can be sure that the work that you're doing on the Thinkful curriculum is what you'll need in order to succeed. And that includes not just JavaScript, it also includes the computer science concepts that you'll need in order to get a job and perform well at interviews. To give you an overview of what you'll be covering in the program, and please don't worry about writing all of this down, I can link you to the syllabus after the presentation is over. You'll start out first by working with HTML and CSS, learning the front-end basics, And then you're going to move into working with GitHub and Git, understanding how to become efficient at working from the command line, which are tools, by the way, that you're going to be using as everyday part of your job. After that, you'll focus on the programming fundamentals of JavaScript and jQuery, learning more intermediate front-end development with responsive design. And then you're going to start focusing on the backend, thinking about Node.js, working with MongoDB and also Express. We'll then wrap up the JavaScript component of the curriculum by working with React. And then you'll focus on the computer science concepts, which I mentioned. That includes things like data structures and algorithms. And these are projects that were written for Thinkful by one of our mentors. His name is Dr. Mike Littman, and he works as a professor of computer science at a university in Wisconsin. He's someone who is very experienced in these concepts. He has a PhD. And if you're someone who is interested in diving even deeper than the curriculum goes onto these concepts, we'd be happy to pair you with Dr. Littman for a session or two, or even more than that, to cover these so that by the time that you graduate, you have that extra knowledge with you. And again, this flexibility in the curriculum is made possible because we're pairing you with an individual mentor who can customize the program for you, regardless of whether you're looking at the flexible bootcamp option or the more full-time immersive. And as you know, and as you should actually know, one of the most important components of submitting applications and building the technical skills is having work that showcases those skills. And that's why it's so important as a developer that you're building a portfolio that's comprehensive, that's unique, and that it's not boilerplate, that it makes you stand out from other candidates who may be applying for the same job. If you're looking into a program that's going to have you rebuild sites like Airbnb or Reddit or things like Instagram, sure, these projects are going to teach you how to build those skills, and you're going to be able to take that in an interview and showcase that you know how to build an app like that. But they're not going to let the hiring manager or the senior engineer that you're going to be interviewing with know that you're someone who can take an idea from the very initial stages, meaning thinking about what that app is going to provide in terms of a solution or a service, wireframing it, turning it into a first version, so an MVP, that you then present to your colleagues. And at Thinkful, your colleagues are going to be your mentor, your fellow students, other mentors in the program, and your career path program manager. And for some of you, that'll also be Thinkful HQ. There are demo days in the presentation where you get the opportunity to present the work that you're doing to Thinkful HQ, and our CTO, our engineers, and our co-founders, and everyone else at Thinkful HQ will give you feedback on that. You have the complete option of doing so. And you'll then take that feedback and turn that project into a second, more finalized version that you include in your portfolio and take to employers and say, hey, this is the project that I've built, and this is exactly how I did it and why I built that project. One of the examples that you see on screen now is a capstone project that was built by Paul Anderson, who's one of our recent graduates. And I actually want to step away from the presentation for a couple of minutes to give you an overview of what this application looks like in real time. So if y'all will just indulge me for a sec, I will go ahead and continue sharing my screen, open this application in real time. Now, as I mentioned, Paul is one of our most recent graduates working out of Dallas, Texas. So the application that he built allows the user to see events that are happening in their area. This could be a music event, like a concert or a music festival, be a basketball game, or I've even seen things like poetry readings at a local bar, happy hours. I saw a Pokemon crawl the other day on one of these events. So just really ranges on the event that you're looking for, but we'll drag that over to Lower Manhattan, which is where Thinkful HQ is located. And we can refresh the application. And these pink dots will pop up on the screen. And that means that there's an event happening at a venue there. So as I mentioned, it could be someone who is a performer at, I guess in this case would be Bowery Electric. We can click to get tickets and it'll take us to Band is in Town, which is a website you can buy tickets or host your event. Other examples of that would be the actual venue of the location. So we'll click on another one here. And again, this is just an application that I wanted to show you to give you an overview of how complex these projects really are and how unique they are. I can guarantee you that Paul took this to his hiring manager when he was interviewing and was able to explain this project, and that the hiring manager didn't see anything like it during the entire interview process for that particular role. Why? Because Paul was able to create an idea entirely on his own, not go to an interview and say, hey, I've recreated Airbnb and Instagram and Reddit and something like Etsy. And the interviewer may have seen 2 or 3 of those projects or very similar projects that very same day. So it's important that you're building a portfolio that's comprehensive and unique, and the capstone projects that you're building in the program are exactly that. Overall, you're going to be focusing your attention on anywhere between 10 to 15 smaller size projects that first help you gain skills. And then you're going to focus your attention on at least 4 capstone projects that are entirely student created. So think of these capstone projects as exactly this. But of course, there is so much more to getting hired than just building a portfolio. There is more than just the technical skills. And at Thinkful, we understand that. And for that reason, one of the more important components of the curriculum, other than the technical skills that you're building, is the non-technical skills, pairing you with a career coach who's going to help you succeed in getting hired. Initially, you and your career coach will start talking about what types of jobs you'd like to apply for, where in the country you are, and where in the country you'll be looking for jobs. They're also going to be encouraging you to attend tech meetups. You and your career coach will talk about hackathons in your area. They're going to encourage you to get in touch with a developer that you already know, just so that you pick their brains and ask them about, what their day-to-day life is like, what technologies they see in their area, and whether they know someone who's hiring. This is also that you start growing the network of potential employers that you could be working with, or potential connections you have in the industry. Once you start actually building the technical skills, you and your personal mentor or your career coach are going to be scheduling technical interview sessions throughout the program. There are at least 4 practice technical interview sessions that you'll have, and I say at least 4 because if you are someone who's struggling through a particular concept, it may be possible that we schedule a 5th or a 6th. But these technical interview practice sessions are going to be proctored by different mentors from within our network. So you're never going to get comfortable with one mentor because you've already interviewed with them. We do this so that you practice the non-technical component of things as well. And initially, the interviews will focus on things like HTML and CSS, JavaScript, the command line, things like that. And they're going to get progressively more difficult as you build more complex skills. So that by the end, you're focusing on the computer science concepts, which I mentioned, and making sure that by the time you're submitting applications and are starting to get technical interviews, you're performing well. You're not getting nervous, and your skills can shine through, and you leave a lasting impression on the hiring manager and the senior engineer that you're going to be interviewing with. Once you do submit applications and are near the graduation point, you and your career coach are going to be getting together and working more closely. That means every week over video chat, you're going to be discussing your portfolio, LinkedIn profile, resume, the emails that you're sending out. They're going to be practicing phone calls with you so that you have that first call with a hiring manager, and that'll lead to a technical interview. And while they're guiding you in submitting applications on your own, the career coach and the Thinkful HQ team will also be doing that on our end. We're going to be reaching out to employers that we've been working with in the past or that have hired our graduates to set up an introduction or an interview for you. We're going to do this, and we do this on a case-by-case basis, meaning that we work with students in the cities they'd like to work in, and also take a look at what their career goals as far as the type of company they'd like to work for and the type of work they'd like to do. The person behind that at Thinkful, who's been growing our network, our employer network, is Liz, the person you see on screen now. She's actually one of my colleagues at Thinkful, the person who trained me at Thinkful when I first joined in early 2016. And she works tirelessly to grow our network of employers. I've sat in the room with her when she's been on the phone with hiring managers from Amazon in Seattle. She was originally looking for a job opportunity for one of our graduates in Denver. The hiring manager let us know that the Denver office is not hiring developers, but she said, hey, if you have graduates in Seattle, send them my way. I would love to interview them. That's a connection that we now have, and that's a connection that we're going to be using as graduates of ours in the Seattle area begin to graduate in the coming months. Another example of how we grow the network of employers that we work with is one of our most recent graduates here in New York City. Rachel was hired by a company that is growing a lot more quickly than they thought they would. So they reached out to Thinkful and said, hey, we're really impressed with Rachel's performance so far. We're thinking of hiring more developers in the coming months. If and when we do, please send any graduates that you have in New York City our way. We'd love to interview them. Again, these are connections that are constantly growing. So if you're someone who's looking for a job in St. Paul, Minnesota, or Denver, Colorado, or anywhere in San Diego or Miami, you can expect that there are students already working there. And what that means is that by the time the students graduate, we're going to have a strong network of potential employers for you as well. So when you think about it, our career prep component is less about throwing you into a fair and having you compete to the death with other students who are in your program, and more about individually taking you and prepping you for the type of career that you want, guiding you in submitting applications, and then doing some of that on our end so that you can succeed. And we do this throughout the entire program because the entire point of a boot camp is to get you hired. And if we're focusing solely on the technical interviews, the technical skills in your portfolio, and then kind of throwing you into open water without you having knowing where to go, it's not really efficient. And we do this because the success of our graduates is extremely important for us. And a way for us to highlight that is to be extremely transparent about the processes that go on at Thinkful. Meaning that in early part of this year, in January, we published a report with statistics on the outcomes of all of our graduates. We became the first online programming school to do so in January. And in, I think, April of this year, we became the only online programming school to have that same report audited by a firm that we reached out to that verified that the data that we have on there is accurate, legitimate, and that the methods that we applied are as advertised. And again, so for those we published this report, which includes information on our job placement rate, which I mentioned is at 93%. Also the titles of our graduates, which range from software engineering to web developers, I wanted to introduce also myself. Includes information about where they were in the country. Also includes information on their demographics, just to give you an overview of what the career or the web development program really is. See, I caught myself there, not saying career path, web development bootcamp. We published this report to give you the tools that you need to make an informed decision, so that when you come to Thinkful and you join an info session or you hop on a call with me, you ask me, what does the job placement rate mean? What types of jobs are those? Are those full-time salary positions, or are those a help desk position? When you see a percentage that says that this is a salary increase amongst our job-seeking graduates, what does that mean? And why aren't we reporting the salary for someone in New York versus someone in Denver, Colorado, which I can get into in just a minute. But again, these are the tools that you'll need in order to make a decision about a bootcamp. And everyone here at Thinkful, from our two co-founders, Daryl Silver to Dan Friedman, to all the different mentors that you'll be working with, and everyone at Thinkful HQ behind me, including our CTO and one of our engineers, Thomas, very strongly believes that education requires trust. That one of the most effective ways and one of the only ways of building that trust is by being transparent. So we publish this report, have it audited, and we update it every single month so that you, the student, can take a look at that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can type those into the chat box, or we can discuss those one-on-one on a follow-up call. I can link you to the report, by the way, right after the presentation. As I mentioned, we're working with graduates from all around the country. 4 of the graduates that you see on screen now are perfect examples of students that came to Thinkful without a technical background. They didn't have CS degrees. They didn't work as front-end developers. They weren't freelance developers before they joined. They were true beginners, having no technical background, like Matt, who was an English teacher focusing on English as a second language education. And they have similar goals. Matt was someone who wanted to be a developer and had looked at things like Codecademy and Treehouse for a number of years. Or not years, sorry, a number of months before he realized that he needed something a little bit more immersive. He came to the bootcamp program, graduated, and was placed as a developer in RealPage Inc., which is in Dallas. Emily, another great example of one of our recent graduates. She's working currently as a software engineer over at IBM here in New York. She's actually about 30 minutes north of where we are on the city. And before coming to Thinkful, she was a student who had gone through a number of different internship positions, working in really different industries. She studied political science as part of her undergrad and went through the bootcamp program and was recently placed over as a software engineer. Rachel is the graduate that I talked about here in New York. She's working as a developer at Hedgeable. And Christian is all the way in Los Angeles, which is actually my hometown. He was working in sales in a retail position before he went through the bootcamp, and now he's a developer working at CostForce. So you can ask me about other different backgrounds. Really, we're working with graduates of all different ages, different demographics, all around the country, even in other parts of the world. We're working to place graduates in London. We have a couple of students in Canada that we've placed and that we're working to place. So it's likely that there's someone who has a similar background story. Not exact same, of course, but similar. And because our graduates are successful and we've seen them jump into roles as developers, we want to make sure that our confidence in the program is presented to you in the terms of something that you can trust and you can count on. And in many ways, in many important ways, that's a guarantee that says that if you don't find a job as a developer or an engineer within 6 months of completing the program, we refund 100% of your tuition. Now, so one of the main differences I want to point out, I wanted to introduce myself, and the guarantee that you may see in another program, is that we're not asking you to abide by a super long list of criteria in order for that guarantee to apply. We're never going to ask you to submit 5 applications per day or even 5 applications per week. We're never going to ask you to pick between 2 cities and the first job that you get is the one that you have to take and relocate to because the area that you're in isn't good for
and also the career search.
Instead, we'll work with you.
And if you're someone who is on a map,
we'll discuss whether the guarantee
mentor, but I personally haven't done it.
And if it doesn't,
we'll understand why. That we're getting a lot of feedback.
There's fine print to this
on how the program is going, just figure out if the full-time program is really
that you're at least 21 years old and that you're legally able to work in the United States and speak
on the
English
chat
and writing
box in case you'd like to get in touch with me.
This last part, this last component, I wanted to
definitely encourage that we schedule a call to discuss the program
because it is very important, not just for Thinkful, but also for you as a student.
So to be prep course if you're considering.
We ask that you're living in an area or willing to relocate
to enroll in an prep course
that has a healthy job market. And of course, web development is something that's in demand throughout the entire country. But in certain parts of the country, like Western North Carolina or Little Rock, Arkansas, or places like Cleveland, Ohio, web development is there, but it's not in the technologies that we teach. It's in things like .NET or PHP, or maybe Java, or maybe some older legacy stack. These are things that are in demand in certain parts of the country, but overall, in the larger cities and in the areas where JavaScript and Ruby on Rails and Python are more prominent, they're not. For that reason, we want to make sure that we're looking at a program that is going to benefit you as an individual student. And so if one of our programs at Thinkful isn't something that benefits you, we'll talk to you about that. Talk to you about what programming languages you should be focused on. Or maybe you'll link you up with one of the boot camps that we partner with. Coder Foundry is a great boot camp that we partner with that prepares students that are in the .NET field in parts of Western North Carolina and parts of the South. So if that happens to be something that would benefit you, we can discuss that. Again, JavaScript is something that's very in demand throughout the entire country. And it, again, is the most widely used language in web development. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be everywhere. So we want to make sure that the program will benefit you. So if you're curious about the city where you're living now and you want to type it into the chat box, we can run through DICE together and figure out if the bootcamp program would be a good option for you. Another really important component of your program would be deciding what pace you'd like to go through. The flexible and full-time bootcamp programs will both offer you the same high level of personal mentorship. They cover the same curriculum and they cover the same concepts. And most important, they're also going to give you the same opportunities in terms of your career, and they carry the same job placement guarantee. Really, the key difference between the flexible option and the more full-time program is that they're structured for a different student. The flexible option is for someone who's looking at a more self-paced approach. Someone who can't quit their job or has school part-time or has kids that keep them really busy. It's for someone who can devote 20 hours a week or more to the curriculum, who's going to meet with their personal mentor 3 times each week, and who's joining a community of hundreds of students and different mentors that they can go to for help. This is something that I think is very unique to Thinkful, that you're actually joining an active community. And what I mean by active community is not at all a forum where it'll take you a day or two to get an answer. It means live office hours that you can attend every single day, multiple times a day, to get help from other mentors. It may not be your mentor, it may also be your mentor. You can join these after the presentation, or actually now. I'll hop off the presentation screen and I'll show you what this calendar looks like, because I think this is something that's very unique to Thinkful. I haven't seen it on any other platform. But these Q&A sessions that you see on screen now are scheduled throughout the entire day. They're live and are proctored by other mentors from within our network. You can filter through these by concept that you're covering. So if you're working through front end, you're able to attend to them. They're all live over video chat in a very similar format to what I'm doing now, except that instead of the room being in presentation mode, you would actually be able to ask questions in real time and share your screen and look at your code together. And you can see that there are several of them scheduled throughout the day. And so even if you're working a more full-time job, you can attend these. If you're someone who's in the full-time program, you can attend all of these on the weekends, get all the help that you need. And again, this isn't a forum where you post your question and then get an answer a couple of hours later or a couple of days later. It's all in real time. And it's because we want you to be able to succeed, even if you're going through the program at a more self-paced and flexible approach that has you working weird and random hours. If you're a full-time student, you're going to be following a daily lesson plan of different workshops and pair programming sessions. That includes a lecture in the morning by the instructor, followed by pair programming sessions with your student, and wraps up with a personal one-on-one session with your mentor. The full-time program is the program for someone who is able to devote 50 hours a week over the next 4 months. Someone who is able to work Monday through Friday from around 9 to 5 in the morning, depending on which time zone you're in, and is someone who's going to graduate in 4 months and again expect the same opportunities as the flexible student, but just a different approach for a different learning style. I'm happy to discuss which of these options may be the better one for you on a follow-up call. And we can discuss whether the flexible or the full-time program may be the one for you. I did want to wrap up the presentation by quickly discussing the different financing options and scholarships that we have for the program, which again are different in structure because the programs themselves are different. But we've partnered with 3 really incredible organizations, Girl Develop It, Operation Code, and Mother Coders, to offer all self-identifying women and U.S. military members scholarships for the program. Now, there's no application for these, and you can combine them with all the different financing options that we have, which include the opportunity of applying for a loan through Skills Fund, the lender that we partner with, for someone who's looking to make really low monthly payments while they're in the program and afterwards, or the opportunity for someone who wants to apply through the deferred payment plan. There's no application needed. You can enroll in the program through the deferred payment plan at any time. You'll make an initial down payment, and then after that, we'll be either paying $500 per month for the flexible option or $1,000 per month for the full-time program. To give you an overview of the financing for the programs overall, the flexible program is currently priced at $1,500 per month, and the full-time program is at $14,000 per month. Again, this is because the programs are different. Flexible program is on a month-to-month basis, and we do have students that are finishing in 4, 5, or 6 months. So we want to give you that freedom of controlling not only your pace, but also the finance for the program. And for the full-time program, because it is a set 4-month course, it's at a set $14,000. Again, happy to discuss any questions that you have. So if you'd like to type them into the chat box or reach out to me via email to discuss your specific situation in case you're shy, please do so. I'm happy to chat. And I did want to thank everyone for joining me for the info session. Before I start taking your questions, I wanted to note that if you do need to exit the room and go back to your busy day, you can send me an email at noel@thinkful.com or schedule a call with me through thinkful.com. So I'll keep the slides up, and what I'll do is I'll actually post the links to my email address and also the call scheduler, so you can select the call. So we have a couple of questions. So this program really isn't for a beginner. No, not at all, actually. It definitely is for a beginner. I'll go back to sharing my screen. It really also depends on whether you're looking at the flexible option or the more full-time program. As a flexible option student, you're going to be working through the very fundamentals of front-end development. As I mentioned, working with HTML and CSS, learning how to use a text editor, how to work with Git and GitHub, all from the very beginning of the course with your personal mentor. If you're someone who's interested in the full-time program, you're going to be doing the exact same thing, but through the 2-week prep course. And that's to make sure that you're at the same level in terms of your experience as all the other students that are in the program. But I should make definitely clear that the programs are structured for beginners. Majority of the students that we're working with don't have technical backgrounds. Good percentage of them also don't have college degrees. So if you're someone who never went to college and you're interested in making a transition, this is a program, and really all bootcamp programs should be that type of program for you. If a bootcamp is asking that you have a technical degree or that you have experience with programming, that's more than what someone could reasonably do on their own. Not necessarily a true bootcamp in style. Really, a bootcamp is for someone who's looking to make a transition into a new career from a background that's not at all related to coding. How many people drop out, and if so, how soon? Great question. So I'll continue sharing my screen, and I will actually post the web development jobs report in the chat box, just so that you have that available too. But on this report, which I did want to go over, you have a lot of statistics, as I mentioned. This includes things like the job placement rate that we have, the number of students that have graduated from the program, their salary increase, what their job titles are, software engineer, web developer, front-end developer, things like how long it takes to graduate, statistics on their demographics, and where they are in the country. One of the other components that we track in the career path are the web development jobs report. It's almost like by nature, I just say it's instinct. In the web development jobs report is the students that have graduated from the program. Currently, the graduation rate that we have is at 40%. And I did want to discuss this program and also answer the second part of your question, which is how soon. Unfortunately, whenever a student withdraws from one of our programs, we do ask them to fill out a survey. We ask them to fill out a little survey that lets us know why they withdrew and any feedback they have about the program or their mentorship experience. Generally, the feedback that they have to give us about the curriculum itself and the mentorship experience that they had is great. And when we ask them to cite a reason for withdrawing from the program, majority of the time, it is financial limitations in continuing. And one way for us to address that very important issue is having introduced financing options in the last couple of months, as well as scholarships, so that both students that are already in the program and new students that are beginning to enroll have a plan set forth to complete the program and be able to complete it successfully without having to worry about where their next monthly payment is coming from or how much they have to pay. That being said, the graduation rate that you see on the report now is for the flexible option, the month-to-month program, which is for students that are looking at a more self-paced opportunity. Once the graduates from the full-time program begin to graduate, and we do expect there to be a much higher graduation rate for that program, we'll publish other data in addition to this report so that you can compare those two side by side. So I should note that this 40% is to the flexible program. We're expecting the graduation rate for the full-time program to be much, much higher, somewhere near 90%. So once we have that data, we'll be happy to publish it. And the second part of your question, which was how soon, when do they drop out? Generally, it's within the first 2 months. After someone has been in the program for longer than 2 months, the retention rate goes up exponentially. So it really is about making sure that those 2 months initially are well addressed in terms of your finances and making sure that you can remain engaged in the program and not drop out because you don't have enough time. Those are all discussions that we have to have together to make sure that those first 2 months are really well planned out. When do classes start? Great question. It also depends on which of the programs you're looking into. If you're someone who's looking into the flexible option, you can begin the program at any time because you are working very closely with your personal mentor to figure out where in the curriculum you'll begin based on your experience and also set a pace for the course. If you're someone who's looking into the full-time program, there is a cohort that you'd have to follow. The next one for that would be August 22nd, and we can see that on my screen now. If we go over to the full-time bootcamp page, you see that the next start date would be August 22nd, which is coming up in exactly a month and a day. We do ask that you enroll in a 2-week prep course before the start of the program. And again, that prep course is to get you up to speed with the technologies that every other person in the bootcamp will have. And it's also to give you an introduction to what the program will be like, meaning how you'll access the one-on-one sessions with your mentor, whether online education is something that works for you. Because there are students that we've spoken to who in this day and age have never taken an online course. It's something that I did in part of my college education, even though I went to very traditional 4-year institution. I took online courses, and that's something that was an experience at first, but we want to make sure that the full-time program is something that would benefit you and that you would be a good fit for the program itself. So the 2-week course is in one part to get you up to speed, another part to make sure that the program is a good fit in both directions. And again, that's 2 weeks. So if you're considering enrolling in the August 22nd full-time program, the last date to enroll with that would be August 8th. And then I had another question that came up. What made you start coding/mentoring? Great question. So I started coding when I was in college. I took a number of different courses as part of my undergrad, which was a combination of German as a major, so German language and history, and then on the completely different other end of the spectrum, human genetics and biology. So in my human genetics courses, I often worked with R, which is a programming language and software that's used for data analysis. I had a very specific use for R, so I was doing population genetics analysis. So I was taking data that our GSI would hand over from her research, and we were helping her in taking that data and making meaning of it, meaning being able to identify when a specific trait was lost or introduced in a population. And that's a very specific use for R that's not at all related to web development. So then when I came to Thinkful, I started working with Python, which is also used for data science work. And that's kind of my intended pursuit with that. But it's also something that's used for web development, for the backend side, something that Thinkful uses here as part of our backend development. So I got an introduction to it in college, did some of that in my previous role, and I got into the education advisor role because I have a very natural interest in working with programming languages, as I did some of that in college. And I'm interested by the tech space. It's something that really has interested me for the last number of years. I went to school in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I was surrounded by that throughout my entire college career. Another question that we have is how many hours will need to be dedicated for the pre-work? For the pre-work for the full-time program during those 2 weeks, we are expecting that you commit anywhere between 15 to 20 hours per week. I can, by the way, link you to the full-time program page now so that you're able to look at the page that I'm looking at. Scroll down a little bit and go down to the schedule. or the syllabus. And yeah, here's the more in-depth description of the 2-week prep course. You're expected to commit about 15 to 20 hours per week. If you're someone who's already familiar with HTML and CSS and has some skills with JavaScript, we do ask that you still enroll or consider enrolling in the 2-week prep course. And this is so that you have an introduction to Thinkful. You'll be up to speed already because you have that experience, but you can continue building on that. So work on more advanced concepts of JavaScript during those 2 weeks. Maybe learn to work with jQuery as well. Again, by the end of those 2 weeks, you'll have a clear idea whether the program is a good fit. Most students that enroll in the 2-week prep course do transition onto the full-time program. Some of them are going into the more flexible option. Only, I think, a very small number not ending up at Thinkful. But again, that's the point of the program, to give you an introduction and make sure that it truly is a good fit. Trying to reorient this camera. Now, one question that I often ask students is, where in the country are you? As I mentioned, Thinkful is located in Lower Manhattan, but we have students from all around the country, all around the world. We have a student in India, we have a couple of students in the UK, we've had students in Australia before, and we have several students that are in Canada as well. So anywhere you are in the country, Thinkful students or alum or mentors have been there as well. Tennessee, great. I spoke to someone earlier today who is from Chattanooga. Never been to Tennessee myself, but I hear that there is one great whiskey and also an up-and-coming tech scene in places like Nashville and Memphis. So great. Also was wondering if Houston had a solid market for web developers, possibly. Yeah, absolutely. Houston, as I think the largest city in Texas, definitely has lots of opportunities for web development. Texas overall has great opportunities. We have several graduates in Dallas, Paul Anderson being one of them, Matt Morris another, and of course Austin has lots of opportunities. So any of those 3 cities that you're looking at in Texas would be great. Yeah, definitely amazing whiskey right beside Nashville. Great, yeah. How much is the prep course? Great question. The prep course is at $250, which is then applied to your tuition as the full-time program if you do decide to transition. And that would be to both the full-time immersive or the more flexible self-paced program. So those $250 pay for 3 weekly one-on-one sessions with your personal mentor throughout those 2 weeks. They also pay for the curriculum and any of the resources that you use. And again, that will be applied to the down payment that you make for the full-time program or the payment that you make for the part-time or the self-paced flexible program if you do decide. When companies hire, is it a good idea to have some sort of college degree? Not necessarily. Some companies will prefer that you have a college degree. Others, especially much more progressive companies, don't care. And one of the reasons behind that is that you can have a college degree, but if your college degree is in something that's not at all related to programming, it doesn't necessarily make you a much more competitive candidate than someone who has just as great of technical skills, but doesn't have a college degree. So I have a friend of mine who went to UC Berkeley. She studied computer science, and she has a degree in computer science. And when she applied to Capital One, another person that got hired next to her didn't have a college degree. He had gone to a boot camp in San Francisco called Hack Reactor, and they were applying for the same position. And they both got hired because they were hiring more than one person. But the person who didn't have a college degree at all outcompeted some of the people that had gone to Stanford and also UC Berkeley. And the reason that my friend got hired over the other students or the other candidates for that job was her portfolio. She made sure that while she was in the program at Berkeley, she studied very hard to create a portfolio that she could present to employers. And so did the Hack Reactor student, because Hack Reactor is very portfolio heavy as well. So again, college degree is helpful in some cases, but not a deal breaker. And if you're someone who has strong technical skills and can perform well in an interview, the college degree becomes a non-existent problem. I am responding to a query real quickly. So if you hear the typing. About how many job offers does the average student have at graduation? That really depends, not only on where the student is living, and also what types of companies and what goals the student has for their opportunity. I'd say that currently we have students that are receiving anywhere between 1 to 3 job offers right after graduation. Most students that are in the program do take that initial job offer because it's very reasonable in terms of salary and it is what they were looking for. But I would definitely have to follow up on a more specific number. I'd have to talk with my colleague Liz, who's the person that you saw on screen, who's in charge of our employer network manager, to give you a more specific number. So I'm going to write that down actually on my notes and reach out to you, Nabil, to make sure that I can give you a solid answer. How many offers per graduate? Have you seen people get job offers before they finish the program? Yeah, all the time, actually. That's actually something else that we track pretty closely. I'll hop over again to the career path, the web development jobs report, the web development bootcamp jobs report. How long does it take to get a job? We track that data, and you'll see that by graduation, about 62% out of those 93% that have been placed into jobs got an offer by the time they graduated. Again, at Thinkful, we consider graduation to be the point where you either complete the curriculum or where you find a job. The entire point of the program is to get you employed, not to give you a diploma or a pseudo degree. So if you're looking to a program that's offering you a pseudo degree and they're not focused around getting you a job, you consider. Really, it's about getting you a position as a developer with the technical skills that you need. And so it's not at all uncommon that someone will go through the curriculum, build a great amount of front-end skills, and then decide, hey, you know what? I really like front-end. I'm going to study some of the back-end, but I'm going to focus my attention around front-end development. And they go out there, they apply to jobs with their career coach or on their own, and they get a job as a front-end developer, and they decide to discontinue the course, and they have the complete option and flexibility to do so, because it is part of the flexible option program. So not at all uncommon that you'd find a job at graduation. By the 3rd month is when 93% of our graduates have found jobs. Is everyone ready that ends up taking the bootcamp? I'm not sure that I understand the question. Meaning, is everyone that ends up taking the bootcamp ready to complete a job, to find a job as a developer? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So everyone who completes the bootcamp program, we do guarantee you a job, so long as you put in the effort and the time and you build the portfolio and have actively searched for jobs. If you don't find a job as a developer or engineer, we would refund 100% of your tuition. What is the average salary for a student when hired after the course? Great question, and I'm happy that you asked that. I wanted to reference once more the Web Development Bootcamp Jobs Report. And you'll see at the very top that we report on salary